No one knew the rookie nurse was a Black Ops veteran, until her old unit came to thank her. The emergency room doors burst open just after sunrise, and within seconds the quiet hospital was swallowed by controlled chaos. Stretchers rolled across polished floors, alarms echoed through the hallways, and frightened families searched every passing face for hope. In the middle of it all stood the hospital's newest nurse, calm as still water while everyone else seemed to drown in panic. No one noticed how her eyes instantly mapped every exit, every danger, every wounded patient. No one questioned why her hands never trembled or why she could make life-or-death decisions faster than doctors twice her age. To everyone else, she was simply the rookie nurse trying to prove herself. They had no idea that beneath those blue scrubs was a woman who had once survived the world's darkest battlefields. And before this ordinary day was over, her past would walk through the hospital doors and leave everyone speechless. If you believe kindness deserves to be rewarded and everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories to life. Morning sunlight poured through the tall hospital windows as 29-year-old Mara Ellison adjusted her name badge and quietly prepared for another 12-hour shift. She had only worked at Ashbrook Memorial Hospital for 6 weeks, and despite her remarkable skills, many of the senior nurses still viewed her as inexperienced. They admired her work ethic but wondered how someone so young stayed unbelievably calm under impossible pressure. Whenever a patient crashed unexpectedly, Mara's breathing never changed. Whenever blood covered the floor or panic filled the room, she moved with precise confidence that seemed almost unnatural. The doctors appreciated her efficiency, but whispers floated through the staff lounge almost every day. Some believed she had worked in elite trauma centers overseas. Others guessed she came from a military family. Mara never corrected anyone. She simply smiled politely and returned to caring for people who needed her. The truth rested deep inside memories she had buried years ago. Long before she became a nurse, Mara had served in one of the nation's most classified Black Ops medical units. She had parachuted into hostile territory under moonless skies, treated soldiers while bullets flew overhead, and carried wounded teammates through mountains no ordinary rescue helicopters could reach. She had learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear but the decision to keep moving despite it. Those missions had earned her medals that could never be displayed and recognition that could never be spoken publicly. When her final mission ended in heartbreaking loss, she quietly left military service, promising herself that the rest of her life would be dedicated to saving lives instead of surviving wars. The hospital gave her exactly that opportunity. Every patient reminded her why she had chosen healing over combat. Elderly couples holding hands through illness, frightened children searching for reassuring smiles, exhausted parents praying for miracles, these people became her new mission. Every bandage she wrapped and every comforting word she offered slowly repaired pieces of her own wounded heart. Late that morning, disaster struck without warning. A massive highway collision involving several vehicles sent dozens of injured victims rushing toward the emergency department. Ambulances lined up outside while helicopters circled overhead. Doctors immediately realized the hospital faced one of the largest emergency situations in recent memory. Staff members hurried through crowded corridors, trying desperately to organize the overwhelming number of patients arriving every minute. While others struggled to keep pace, Mara quietly transformed into someone very different. She rapidly organized treatment zones, prioritized patients according to invisible calculations happening inside her mind, assigned medical supplies before shortages developed, and coordinated teams with remarkable precision. She never raised her voice, yet everyone naturally followed her instructions. Experienced physicians found themselves accepting her recommendations without hesitation because they worked flawlessly every single time. No one understood where those instincts came from. Hours passed before the final ambulance arrived. Lives had been saved because of decisions made within seconds. Exhausted nurses leaned against walls, barely able to stand, while Mara calmly helped clean equipment as though the morning had been completely ordinary. Hospital Administrator Victor Hanley noticed everything. He approached one of the senior surgeons and quietly asked whether Mara had received advanced military emergency training. The surgeon simply shrugged, admitting he had never witnessed anyone work with such disciplined focus. Mara overheard none of it. She had already returned to checking on frightened patients, offering warm blankets, adjusting pillows, and holding trembling hands. She believed the smallest acts of kindness often healed wounds medicine could never reach. Just after noon, several black SUVs slowly entered the hospital parking lot. Security guards exchanged nervous glances as 6 men and 1 woman stepped out together. Their movements were disciplined, their posture unmistakably military, though each wore civilian clothing. Their faces carried years of hardship, loyalty, and memories that ordinary people could never understand. They weren't there for treatment. They were looking for someone. Inside the hospital, reception staff politely asked whether they needed assistance. The oldest among them smiled gently before answering only one sentence. "We're here to thank Nurse Mara Ellison." The receptionist pointed toward the emergency department, completely unaware of what those words truly meant. When the group entered the nurse's station, conversation slowly faded into silence. Doctors stopped writing notes. Visitors looked up curiously. Even the constant hospital noise seemed to soften. Mara looked up from a patient's chart. For the first time in years, her calm expression disappeared. Standing before her were the people she had once trusted with her life. Every face carried memories of impossible missions, impossible choices, and impossible sacrifices. Time itself seemed to stop. One by one, the veterans approached her. The oldest former operator, his gray hair replacing the dark hair she remembered, removed his cap and held it respectfully against his chest. Tears-filled eyes that had once stared fearlessly into combat. Without saying a word at first, every member of the team stood perfectly straight before her. Then, together, they saluted. The entire hospital watched in stunned silence. Patients sitting in wheelchairs looked toward the unexpected ceremony. Nurses exchanged confused expressions. Doctors lowered their clipboards. No one understood why highly disciplined military veterans were saluting a rookie nurse. Finally, the gray-haired veteran spoke softly enough for everyone nearby to hear. Years ago, during a classified mission deep inside hostile territory, their extraction had failed. Surrounded, wounded, and cut off from communication, the unit believed their final moments had arrived. Ammunition had nearly disappeared. Medical supplies were exhausted. Hope itself seemed impossible. But one young combat medic refused to surrender. Again and again she crossed open ground under enemy fire, carrying injured teammates back to safety. She treated wounds using whatever materials she could find, ignored her own injuries, and refused evacuation until every single member of her team had escaped alive. That medic was Mara. Several of the veterans quietly admitted they should never have survived that night. One had lost consciousness from severe blood loss before Mara carried him across hundreds of yards through darkness. Another revealed that she had performed emergency surgery with almost no equipment while explosions surrounded them. A third simply wiped away tears before explaining that he was alive only because Mara had given him her own protective body armor after his had been destroyed. The hospital staff listened without moving. Everything suddenly made sense. Her impossible calm. Her extraordinary medical instincts. Her quiet humility. Her refusal to seek recognition. She had never been pretending to be ordinary. She had simply chosen to live an ordinary life after surviving extraordinary darkness. The oldest veteran then reached into a protective case and carefully removed a folded American flag alongside a weathered military patch stained by time. He explained that every surviving member of their former unit had spent years searching for Mara after she disappeared from military life. Classified records prevented them from finding her sooner. Once restrictions were lifted, they agreed on only one mission that truly mattered. Thanking the woman who had given them the chance to become fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, grandparents, teachers, firefighters, and ordinary citizens. One by one, they shared photographs. Children smiling at birthday parties. Family vacations. College graduations. Wedding ceremonies. Grandchildren laughing in sunny backyards. Each photograph represented a life Mara had unknowingly protected decades earlier. Tears rolled down the faces of nurses who had never imagined such a moment inside their hospital. Even patients quietly applauded through watery eyes. Mara herself struggled to hold back emotion. She had spent years believing those memories belonged only in silence. She never expected gratitude. She never wanted recognition. She believed doing the right thing required no applause. But seeing the lives those rescued soldiers had built reminded her that every act of courage creates ripples far beyond the moment itself. Hospital Administrator Victor Hanley later gathered the staff and admitted that true heroes rarely introduce themselves as heroes. They simply arrive early, work hard, treat everyone with dignity, and quietly carry burdens no one else can see. From that day forward, people still called Mara Nurse Ellison. Not because they had forgotten her remarkable past, but because she preferred being known for healing people today rather than fighting battles yesterday. Every morning she continued arriving before sunrise. She still comforted frightened children. She still held elderly patients' hands. She still encouraged overwhelmed families. The medals remained hidden. The memories stayed private. But everyone who had witnessed that unforgettable afternoon understood one timeless truth. Greatness often wears the simplest uniform. Before we reach the end, I have one special request. Please comment, "Real heroes heal in silence." I'd love to know how many people believe true courage is shown through quiet acts of kindness. Months later, the framed military patch hung discreetly inside the hospital's staff hallway with no dramatic explanation beneath it. New employees often walked past without realizing its significance. Mara liked it that way. Whenever someone thanked her for extraordinary care, she smiled with quiet humility because she knew the greatest victories were never measured by medals or headlines. They were measured by the lives that continued because someone chose compassion over comfort, courage over fear, and service over recognition. Every heartbeat she helped protect became another reminder that even the darkest chapters of life can become the foundation for hope. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave a heartfelt comment below, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support allows more uplifting stories like this to reach people who need hope the most. And always remember, the kindest person in the room may be carrying the strongest heart you've never seen.